everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chanel in the City. I'm your host, Chanel Omari, and I have a very special guest in the building today. We're at Cubico Studios in New York City with my good friend, who's the creator of Orange Juice and Biscuits.com, one of my favorite blogs out there right now, and the host of the podcast, Orange Juice and Biscuits on DNR Networks. Please welcome Jonathan Valdez.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming, and you look fabulous.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Thank you. So tell us what you're wearing first.
So this is a blazer from Robert Graham, and then this
Love
is
Robert Graham.
Yes, I know. Look at this like lining
So
and everything.
great for men
Isn't
out
that
there,
so
right?
Cute. Yeah. And then this is actually a shirt that was custom made for me.
Wow.
And
I love it.
Yeah, it's super gorgeous, and it is from, oh my gosh, I know this because it's on the tag, and like I should know this, but
it was custom made for you.
Yeah, it was
so that's
custom
what's
made for
the
me.
point.
Yeah.
I love
And then
that.
this is a super cute chain that was gifted for me from All Saints, so that was great.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, so.
You always have such fabulous style.
Thank you.
What inspires you behind the style of the day? And like, do you have some tips for us girls, like single in the city girls that need like a staple in our closet all the time?
Yes. So for me, style is very individual. So for me, I love color. Obviously, that's why like we love the Robert Graham. And then also, what inspires me is just being unique. So I wear like these fun, crazy outfits, and like I live uptown in Harlem, and so sometimes I get crazy looks, but it's fine. And
I love his Instagram. You guys got to follow him. Where can they follow you for the outfits? Because they're so cool.
So it's Jonathan R. Valdez on Instagram, and then it's Jonathan Valdez on Twitter. But Instagram's really like where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then my Instagram stories are where all the tea is.
Do you? Which I love that. And we're gonna get to that soon. Do you feel like? So when you wear these outfits, do you care what people think? Do they ever like? What crosses your mind when you're like, okay, I'm gonna go out today and I'm gonna wear, a silk robe, or I'm gonna wear like pink boots. I don't know. Something.
I know, exactly. It's really what makes me feel special and amazing. And I'm always kind of like, what would Carrie Bradshaw wear? Which sounds silly, but she just like wore crazy stuff, because Patricia Field, who obviously, styled, would put them in crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what would Carrie wear? What would like certain people wear? And I'm like, it's New York. And I always say, if you can't wear it in New York City, where can you wear it to? Right?
Totally.
Yeah. And I think for your question, for the single gal in the city, you need a little black dress.
Yes.
You need something chic like this. Like I love this like really
Do you love the satin?
Yeah,
it's
the
from
satin
Ink.
blush blazer. Like it's super cute. And I think you just need like staple investment pieces. A good black boot, a nice heel, like a nude pump.
Yes.
Like a blush blazer, or a nice, even this in black, like a blazer, a little black dress, a boot, a pump, like,
And something that like something you can recycle over and over again. So, you always look put together and on the go.
Exactly, because you could even like wear like a nice another blouse under this. Like this is a jumpsuit, yes. Like so you're doing the jumpsuit, which looks fabulous. But you could do like a tank top under this, or like a like when it gets warmer, like a spaghetti strap dress, and like throw that over there with like a cute boot. And I think blazers, obviously I love them, are so versatile. I wear like tank tops under them and button ups, and you can wear whatever you want with a good blazer. I think it'll take you places in the city.
I love that. They will take you places in the city.
Yeah.
So talk to us also about Orange Juice and Biscuits.
Yeah.
What made you start the blog? How long has it been around? What inspired you?
So Orange Juice and Biscuits started off as a morning show in Texas on the radio.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so for 3 years, it was Orange Juice and Biscuits morning talk worth waking for.
I love that.
Yeah, I always love wording.
Yeah.
So it was that, and then I moved here in January 9th of this year was my 10th anniversary in the city.
Wow.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you so much.
New York City's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's so cool that you really it was like you came here 10 years ago and then you still are here. Like that's just like the beauty of New York. It's like you made it.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. I feel like every year, as you go to so many events and you meet all these people, and I really can think on every single year in the past decade and say, okay, 2010 was this, 2013 was this. Like you can kind of like mark it by your eras. Like if you were like a pop star, I guess, like, you have like certain eras in the city.
That was like really, like that 2010 was my year kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or like that's when, like this is like your blonde era.
My blonde era, almost silver, guys. Taking 4 processes, but shout out to New Bit Salon and Spa in Long Island, because Christian, who's my hair colorist, and Jamie, who's my hairstylist, they really helped me evolve the look, because I always say we talked about this, you always have to evolve to be relevant in the public eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like you can't always have the same look. I mean, in general, just as a person, like you always want to evolve your look, which evolves you in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you find that like you get like, so for me, when I first moved here, I did bow ties all the time. And then one day I was like, no more.
Yeah.
And then for the past like year, I was doing like, or like 2 years, I was doing like the neckerchiefs with everything. And then I was like, no more. So now I'm back to my jewelry moments and things like that. You have to just kind of like mix it up. But you were saying, I mean, you're naturally like black hair?
Naturally brown hair. So I was chocolate brown and dark brown. And then they transitioned me from brown to silver. But now it's blonde white. So I have to get it as white as possible. So then they're going to tone it. Like it's going to be like a lavender silver.
Oh, gorgeous.
And then I'm going to collage. And I want to try like different looks. Don't you feel like, so like, you know, I feel dressing different and evolving your look is really kind of saying you're different. I mean, did you ever feel like that as a kid? Like what made you want to be in entertainment?
I used to have like a tape recorder, and I used to do the Jonathan Show, which was because I was very influenced by daytime talk, like Sally Jesse Raphael, Ginny Jones.
Yes.
Yeah, Ginny Jones, Ricky Lake, Phil Donahue, if you will. Like, I think I said Sally Jesse Raphael with the glasses.
Oprah.
I was obsessed. Oprah, of course, Oprah. You know, but really all of those, because, you know, Oprah would come on later. My mom loved Oprah. But it was really like Ginny Jones and Ricky Lake.
Ginny Jones, yes.
Right? And like those kind of things. And so I had a little theme song that I would do, and I would always do the Jonathan Show. But I was always interested in celebrities, even before it was cool, because I feel like right now we're really in this pop culture, like everyone loves to talk about pop culture. But when I was little, I used to watch like Mary Hart and John Tesh on Entertainment Tonight. Like I have memories of watching that and just being so fascinated. And that really, Entertainment Tonight was, you know, was one of the only shows really talking about it. So fast forward to me being in junior high and people making fun of me for knowing, like, I remember this girl in science class being like, ew, why do you know so much about celebrities? So then in high school, I was a theater kid, and the theater kids made fun of me for loving pop culture. Like, I remember this one guy, we were talking or something, and he looked at me, and it was like in a movie. He goes, go away, Mandy. We won't be missing you like candy. I know, such a bitch.
Such a bitch.
Such a bitch. And so, and at the
You're like, bitch, look at me now.
Right.
Look at me
now.
But
like, it was interesting because growing up in a small town in Texas, people found it weird. And then after we graduated my senior year, we took like a theater kids trip to New York. And I remember going to my room, and this girl, Sarah, who I love, she walked by and she was just like, is it weird that Jonathan knows more about J-Lo than I do about my mom? And so, so like I've always been known in like friend circles and things as like the person to talk about pop culture. But you know, growing up, you didn't have the internet really, especially like in like the early 90s, early 2000s, depending. So I had the Teen People and the Rolling Stone, and you really had to
and the Vogues. You had to like read, and you had to really observe and be a true journal. Not that there's no true journalism now, but it's through social media is a little different.
There were no media alerts that popped up right in the palm of your hand. It was like I watched TV, I watched Entertainment Tonight, I watched like MTV News. Then I had to go, and they were like, you know, the exclusive Britney interview in Teen People hitting store like magazines in July. So you know you were
spending money on that.
Yeah, you were going through and you were thumbing through all those like teen beats and everything and finding all the good tea. And I don't know, there was something magical about that, just like being immersed in like that magazine and just like flipping through and reading it. And I don't know.
It was like a magical world. Like remember when I got into entertainment, I felt the same way you did. I just felt like this is a world I can immerse myself and escape when I'm getting, you know, bullied on the schoolyard, or when you know what I mean? When it's not going my way that day.
Exactly.
And it made me feel better.
It made me feel better. And also, like, I was so engulfed with teen movies, and nobody else, like, they watched them, but I don't know, they weren't paying attention. Like, if I watched a movie, I knew all the words.
You knew all the words.
Afterwards. And so I would use them if someone was, like, bullying me in school. I would, like, use, like, disses in the movie, and I would just, like, throw them out. And I think that's where I got my wit from, was, like, honestly, from having to defend yourself, you know, as, like, growing up as, like, you know, being called all kinds of names, you know, in Texas, small town in Texas, and using that as a defense mechanism. So, you know, you use it as that world as an escape, but you also pull from it as like, how do I survive?
Right.
And it really gave me tools to do that. And they were just like, oh my gosh, like, where did that come from? Meanwhile, I'm like, did you not watch Can't Hardly Wait? Like, do you not know that, like, so-and-so said this and 10 things I hate about you? So, yeah, and I think reflecting on that now, it's cool. And, like, I don't know. And then, of course, you know that, like, you get on social media and, like, all these people from your past want to be your friend.
Oh, my God,
and
totally.
Like,
how do you deal with that?
My personal Facebook is, like, I'm really selective, and I think people kind of get crunchy about that. But I'm like, look, honestly, the real tea's on Instagram. Like, that's where all the fun stuff is. Like, my Facebook is kind of my personal. It's private. It's boring. So I honestly have never had any issues with being like, sorry, not going to accept you, or I will block you, or, you know, I feel like how I am in real life. Like, if I'm having it, right? If I'm
social media,
right? Exactly. If I'm having it, I'm having it. If not, I'm not. Like, I don't have any problems, like, Xing you out if you're being shady.
So, like, how do you So, like, that comes to how do we deal with, like, Instagram trolls? So, like, have you ever had to deal with someone who's negative and, like, said something really negative and, like, it got in your head and affected your work? And, like, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I think that honestly, I've been really, I mean, yes, but I just want to say with the backstory, I've been really lucky to really build a community with my Instagram and social media, mostly my Instagram. And so I really do it, my stories are a journal for me.
Yeah.
So I just put things out if I think they're funny or whatever, or what is this? And, like, kind of let people interpret it how it is. But for me, it's all these things that I find interesting or funny, or, like, a million pictures of Jessica Simpson looking fabulous.
I love it.
And her recent, like, book tour looked amazing.
Right.
So I'm just,
like, you're cheering people on.
Right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
We need that positivity.
Exactly. So I'm just doing my thing, and I get all these people messaging me. You're inspiring me. You just being you. Like, and I know it sounds corny, but it's true. And so I do it for me mostly. And then I do it, now I'm starting to be a little bit more conscious of, like, oh, I should post this because I know people would enjoy this.
Right.
And I've always done everything for, if I think it's fun. I always say, if you stay true to yourself, your audience will find you. So going to, like, the trolls, yes. So, you know, when you would post an Instagram and then, like, let's say I'm like, oh, I'm with Chanel, and then you repost it. So then I repost that repost. This one girl, like, messaged me out of the blue, like, last year and was like, why are you doing that? You know, you're not going to get more followers that way. Like, it's annoying to some people. And I was like, ew.
Right.
Like, no, like, I'm doing this for me. I'm like, first of all, like, you're a wackadoo, because once my mention goes off, like, yours will be there 24 hours later. If I, you know, there's, like, a strategy, you know. And then recently someone was like, posted a video that was a screenshot, and they were like, this is how I go through Jonathan's Instagram. And it was just, like, really fast.
Oh, that's insulting for no reason.
I was like, is this shade? He's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you know, you should, like, slow down and pay attention, because you could learn a few things from those stories.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, it happens out of the blue. And when it does, it's like, obviously you feel a certain way. And that's what I told him today, because he brought it up again, this particular person. And I said, this is the second time you've addressed me with this. And I said, I literally pulled from, like, corporate experience from back in the day. And I was like, what are next steps moving forward? Like, how do you want me to process that information? So I think that if you look at it as, like, everyone's going through something, and literally I just confronted it head on, and I'm like, what do you want me to do with this information? And he goes, oh, I like riling you up. And I said, no, honey, you're not riling me up. I'm just like, what is this?
Right.
Like, what are we doing?
What's your agenda?
Yeah, but I think it's unfortunate, people who are mean. And, like, honestly, my policy is if you don't like it, don't talk about it.
So Orange Juice and Biscuits.com, my favorite website. So guys, check it out.
Thank you.
What is the inspiration? So when you're posting, like, what goes behind the posting, right? Because there's a strategy and there's a formula to the madness.
Right. So I always, you know, I'll go through, or, like, I'm reading the news or something pops up, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I have to post about that.
Right.
And honestly, I will be honest, in 2009, when I originally made the post, it was the first post that I made was, remember when Lindsay Lohan came out of a party and, like, the powder was coming out of her shoes? And I, like, put a side by side of, like, her and, like, a choo-choo train.
Right.
So I was a little bit more snarky back in the day.
Like, witty, yeah.
Right, like witty, and just, like, you know, and there are some things that I'm like, maybe I should go back and delete, because now, as I've grown as a person, I want to be more, we talk about it, but we're not dissing people.
We're not being mean about it. Kind of like Perez Hilton, but now how he's so good now, but, like, You kind of wanted to take a positive spin on it.
Yeah, people used to call me Nice Perez back in the
I
day.
love that, Nice Perez.
But even back then, I mean, our dialogues were all different. Society was different, you know. Like, one of the things that I keep thinking about, and I do want to delete it, was, like, I'll be honest, like, when Demi Lovato went into rehab, I made a post that said, Sunny with a chance of rehab. And, like, I want to take
which was
that
witty,
down.
right?
It was witty, but also I felt like it was coming from, like, a mean place because, like, we know her struggles now.
Right.
And I've seen her perform at a charity event, and she's an amazing woman. So, like, you know, things like that, like, I never would want a celebrity to read something and find pain in what I'm doing.
Which I love. And then also you're not selling yourself out for fame. Because what I want to know is how do you balance that boundary where you want obviously some notoriety of what you do as a journalist, right? So you wanted to say like Orange Juice and Biscuits covered so and so, but how do you also make sure you're maintaining the relationship with the celebrity?
Right. I think that it is just coming at it with like facts, and then like I always think of it as like you're giving advice to a friend. So like even when I talk about outfits, I never talk about the person. I'm never like, oh, her face looks bad or she's ugly. Like, no, because it's about like what they're wearing, but it's not about that person. I'm never like, oh, they're so stupid for wearing that. It's just like, girl, like, really this? Like maybe we could like change it up or something funny. I'm very pun heavy. Like
totally.
So lots of puns. I don't know. It's just because I respect them at the end of the day, and like, you know, because I do Us Weekly Fashion Police is what I'm talking
love
about.
it. Yeah.
Right. And I'm always wondering in the back of my head when I hope that it doesn't happen, but I'm really wondering if someone's gonna be like, why are you still critiquing people's clothes? Like that's outdated, like da 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 da. But I'm like, it's fun for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't think that it's being mean. And honestly, if I know someone's publicist or their stylist, or I've had an interaction with them, or I respect them, I will skip it.
You will.
Like I will, because I think that those relationships are more important. And like you said, not selling out for the fame or for the notoriety or for the gotcha or laugh. Like I think that that's how you do it.
Yeah, because you've been successful doing that, you know, so why revert, you know?
Yeah, and if I like know that a stylist, like, and it's happened, or I know the designer personally that has dressed that celebrity, I'm not gonna bash their work. Like that's just so mean. And yeah, and I've even sometimes been like, just watch out, like your stuff's gonna happen, like in this issue, like I didn't write anything, you know, because I think it's nice to give people the heads up. And sometimes like people have also messaged me and said like, what do you mean? I love that outfit. I'm like, listen, like I'm working. I get how it works is like they send me an email with photos and names and I make jokes.
Yeah, and like, that's my job and my role, you know?
Right, exactly. I'm like, and
a lot of people have to play the role in this industry and they are not willing to. And if you're willing to, then you're the one who's going to get ahead. And that's the truth.
Right. And so I'm like,
the one who does the work is my point.
Exactly. You got to work. And I'm like, you know, they give me a picture of X, Y, and Z celebrity in an outfit. And that's my assignment is to come up with jokes about that outfit, if I like it or not, you know, like I said, with those exceptions. But usually I'm just like, you know, it's fun. I don't know. I like puns off of their names.
Totally.
So like
well, I love it. You guys got to catch a copy of Us Weekly, right?
Yes.
Fashion Police with Jonathan Valdez. It's amazing. Let's talk about your podcast, which I love.
Yes.
Orange Juice and Biscuits, the podcast on DNR Network. So talk to us about how that came along. We know that you were a co-host with Rob Shooter on his show on DNR. That's how me and Jonathan met.
Yes.
And I love, shout out to Rob Shooter. We're shouting out the king because he did not.
Yes.
The Shade King gave me shade on Facebook because I didn't shout him out.
I saw that. He was like, because you co-hosted too, right?
He always loves calling me out. Yeah, but we love him, so we're shouting him out. Yes, Rob Shooter put us together. You were fabulous on that show. So just talk to us about how your podcast came about.
Yeah.
And you guys can check out Jonathan's podcast on DNR Networks.
Yes, DNRstudios.com.
DNRstudios.com. And also they could check out orangejuicebiscuits.com for more info. So talk to us about, how it came about.
Yeah, so Rob Shooter had me on as a guest, and I believe the first time that I went, you were there.
Yes.
That was my first time being on the show.
Wow.
And then it was just, you know, he brought me on, and then he kept kind of bringing me back, and then one day he's like, I need someone for Fridays. So I was like, absolutely. So I went on every Friday, and then at the end, he got this amazing opportunity to go to iHeartRadio, And once he left, actually, it was funny on the last show. Romaine, who's one of the producers, because it's Derek and Romaine, DNR Studios.
Right.
She was like, people were calling in and saying, what's going to happen to Rob's time slot? And Romaine jokingly was like, Jonathan's going to get his own show.
Right.
And she was joking, but then I was kind of like, okay. So I talked to her about it, and she was like, sure, like put together a proposal. And so I went in, and they loved it, and the rest is history.
Wow.
And then I got it. So yeah, I was really proud and excited, and Rob really like opened that door for me. But like, and I think that's good advice for people. It's like, people can introduce you to things, but you really have to make those opportunities happen for you.
Right. Like it's, they could drink, what's that quote? They could take the horse to the water, but they can't make it drink.
Right.
So yeah, Rob can open doors for all of us, but we have to also, we have to be fit for the job and like prove ourselves. And so that's what you've done. And that's congratulations. It's so amazing.
Thank you.
What is the premise of the podcast? Is it an extension of the website? So the content, like what do you guys talk about?
Right. So I call it OJ&B the podcast because it is an homage to orangejuiceandbiscuits.com and where I got started really, and my morning show from Texas.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I love that branding. We talk about celebrities, pop culture, fashion, and what's happening in New York City. But it's also just a dialogue of what's going on every day, and at the beginning of my show, I have my housekeeping rules, and I'm like, keep it cute, keep it nice, like don't be shady, be a lady, and like it's a place for everybody.
Don't be shady, be a lady.
Yeah.
I love that. So cute. Your catchphrases are so cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's a place for everyone, no matter your background, your size, shape, like sexual orientation, to have fun.
Right.
And we try to keep it positive. Sometimes we bend the rules a little bit, but it's just like, we don't judge. We talk about world news and things like that are funny kind of world news, but it's never like, again, I don't like to put people down, especially where I'm at right now in my life. I like to discuss what's happening and what they're doing, but it's never like a bad. So yeah, it's just I try my best to be fun and maybe a little snarky, but like not mean.
And when does it air usually?
Right, so it's Thursdays at 3 p.m. And then if you subscribe at dnrstudios.com, you can listen to it whenever. And then hopefully it'll grow from there.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Well, we love listening to it. So make sure you check it out.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this year's award season, and the fashion around it. And I don't know how you felt, but I felt really like it wasn't the best of the fashion like we expected in the past. And so talk to us about like who your favorites were and just what goes behind that decision.
Yeah, so I mean, you're absolutely right. This season was really weird, and in my opinion, it has to do with what's trending because the 90s were back in a big way for a long time, and then we're really into the early 2000s. And do you remember 2002, 3, and 4, how it was just like not cute fashion?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why we're back again because, last year, like, and still now, like Western wear is like really big. But if you remember in 2003, like Madonna had her album and like Western wear was huge.
Yes.
So to me, it's really kind of going from the 90s to the 2000s. And 2003, 2004 was like horrible fashion. So, and we're back with like, short cocktail dresses for evening, which I'm not a fan of. And we're back to like strapless dresses, which if you remember, you probably know, like, especially for like bridal, like everyone was like, no strapless, because it had been done for so long. But now we're getting back into that. And I don't know, the carpet was kind of like a wreck.
It was a downer. I felt like, we watched for the fashion too. And it was the Golden Globes. It was the Oscars. Although the Oscars I felt like everyone brought it. Natalie Portman to Janelle Monáe to Molly Sims. They brought it for the Oscars, but I don't think the other awards, it was so great. It was more plain. We saw, Kerry Washington in plain black dresses with like, you saw Charlize Theron and like plain. I was just like shocked,
Yeah, and like, and Renee Zellweger kind of did like
I mean, she looked great. She always looks great, but she's always simple.
Right. So it was interesting. I mean, Billy Porter was one to watch on
Billy Porter is one to watch always.
Yeah, on those red
he's
carpets.
fabulous.
Even though on the Oscars I felt like it was really a miss only because he did like 3 looks in one. So it was like these gold feathers. Then it was like this kind of like Versace-esque like lion chain print skirt.
I mean, he's just such a great style icon.
Yeah, and then there was like these like interesting like boots, and I loved it all as like separate, and I wish he would have just like gone with like an all gold feathers look or whatever was going on in the skirt.
Totally.
I mean, but if that's your biggest problem, you know.
Exactly.
He killed it all year.
He kills it. So talking about pop culture and fashion, let's talk about some stories you want to share with us and Chanel in the City.
Yes.
So talk to us about maybe like 1 or 2 of your favorite recent pop culture stories that we should keep an eye out for.
Yeah. Well, recently it came out that Steven Spielberg's daughter, who he adopted, came out as she is starting a career in the porn industry.
What?
Yeah. So she announced it, and she said that she told her parents and that they seemingly took it well, but she said she didn't want to be under like the wing of her parents anymore, and she wanted to do her own thing, and she felt that satisfied that she could satisfy others in whatever way that is, and that this is something that she really feels that she should be doing, and it's not like a feel sorry for me, hit the rock bottom kind of thing. It's a personal choice, and so she's doing it.
Wow, good for her.
Good for her.
Embracing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kudos.
Yeah, good for her.
That's a big deal, being Steven Spielberg, one of the biggest directors in Hollywood, and now you're like, hey, I'm going into the porn industry.
Right, exactly.
Wonder how he feels about it. Do we know?
He hasn't spoken. I believe the outlet like reached out and he didn't have a comment, but my thing is like, really good for her, because if my dad were Steven Spielberg, I'd be like,
I'd be mortified. Yeah.
Well, I would want to be like, hey, put me in all your movies, put me in like ET5.
Yeah, so I don't go to the porn industry. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me just like live, and so I don't have to go down that path. But the fact that she's admitting, you know, that's what I want to do and that's my passion is pretty cool.
Right, exactly.
So kudos to her.
Yeah, kudos to her. And just like another thing is like specifically in New York City and pertaining to you, the Real Housewives of New York season 12 is coming out soon.
By the way, you can watch the trailer. We also are going to have a swipe up on our Instagrams for that.
Yeah, because you're in the trailer. Yeah.
Well, the logo, Chanel in the City. I mean, I'm cut out, but I hope I'm not cut out for the episode.
But tell me.
So did you know, so you were invited to this event. It was an exclusive event. So, you know, I do comedy, as you know, here and there, and I'm really breaking out into the like open mic scene. And so I got together with LuAnn. She's like, listen, I really love your podcast. I love this whole podcast live event thing.
Yeah.
Because she's thinking about doing a podcast in the future.
Yeah.
So I told her, let's team up. And since, you know, her cabaret shows have comedy in it.
Yeah.
So we said, let's team up where we will raise money for her charity and my charity. My charity was with anti-bullying, because we both talked about how we were bullied. You know, she's been bullied by her castmates, I've been bullied by mine, and just friends in general. And also the women incarceration, like she went through the whole jail thing, so she wants to help women get back on their feet. So we produced this event together where we would do stand-up comedy and also invite comedians and other podcast hosts that were guests of mine on the show. So we put it together, and it's like, you'll see it on Bravo, I hope. I mean, it's not that, you know how they cut some stuff out. So like, I don't know how long it is, but that was my involvement. So all of a sudden I see the trailer and they're like, you see Chanel in the City in the background. So that's cool. She's been on the podcast a few times.
That's great.
So that's cool. But yeah, that's coming out.
Yeah.
When does that come out? April?
I think it's like soon. Yeah. Like I feel like it may be like even in March. And so, you know, I'm friends with Sonia Morgan, and she invited me to her fashion show. So I might be in the background there. But
how do you feel about the show? Like, did you see the trailer? Like, did you like the trailer? Do you think that without Bethany, it's going to have legs?
I think so.
Do you think there's still more drama? Do you like the new girl? I like the new girl. I met her, Leah.
Yeah, she's good.
She's cool, yeah.
Well, you know, page 6, I believe, Sonia came out saying that all the girls are getting along really well.
Yeah.
But what does that mean in reality shows, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Right, like getting along could be also
like
fighting.
No one flipped a table.
Right. They seemed like there was more love when I was around the tapings and I was around the scenes.
Yeah.
Again, there was also a lot of issues with Dorinda from what we see in the trailer too, between Dorinda and the housemates. But, you know, it's Housewives of New York. I mean, there's going to be always surprises. I can't wait.
Drama. Yeah. And so, and I've been able to be at a lot of the iconic tapings because like Sonia had an event like years ago.
How did you and Sonia meet?
I met her, I went to her first cabaret, like when she did her first cabaret at like the Empire Hotel. I was a guest of a friend. And then we fast forward to same that year, we were at a Jeffrey Fashion Cares event at the David Yurman Mansion on Madison Avenue.
Ooh.
And I walked past her and I said, hi. And she said, hi. And I was like, I was at your event. She's like, which one? And I said, the cabaret one. And she's like, oh my gosh. And so we started talking, but her memory's always been amazing because I told her my name. She asked and she was like, oh, well, we've tweeted before, which we had. So it was just, amazing. And then she introduced me to her friend Caesar, who's now one of my best friends.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
Yeah, it was just, she's always been like really lovely. And in that time, because that was like 2010 or 2011, and then I was at an event at a nightclub and she walked in and I was like, oh, I know Sonia. And my friends were like, yeah, right. And she was like, Jonathan. So out of all of the women, for me at least, she's always been so loyal and always like, she's never like, I don't know you,
right.
Because I've been to, filmings because Sonia's invited me if it's like a Team Sonia or Sonia evolving event, storyline taping or whatever. And they've also had, they used to do like premiere parties and like finale parties. Mm-hmm. And so those women have seen me a million times and I'm not like someone that you don't remember. So a lot of them.
Do they not say hi?
Some of them don't. Some of them kind of like LuAnn's always been lovely.
She's lovely, always, and classy.
But some of them, it's just like you've seen me a million times. Don't act like you
should
don't
say
know
no.
who I am. It's like, but it's like similar to like, real life, like off of a reality show. If you are in the same circles and you see the same person, you may not
say hi.
know someone, but you can always be like, oh, hi, good to see you.
Yeah.
And like LuAnn, like I don't know if she knows my name, but she'll look at me and be like, oh, hi, how are you? You know, and that's just,
that's
nice.
just etiquette,
Yeah, so I think going back then, back to 2011, I was always so pleasantly surprised that Sonia always was like, hey, Jonathan, like, hi,
And she reposts you and everything, so it's cool to see those stories, like, collaborate.
Yeah. And so we, and she said something really sweet one time. She was like, when we first met, I was starting over and you were starting out,
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so she's been lovely. So I'm hoping that this season goes well for all
I can't wait.
And I hope you're in it.
I hope I'm in it and not cut out. I mean, we'll have to see. Yeah. Me and you're going to get a pop of skinny popcorn and let's eat that and have like a premiere and like have fun. It'll be fun.
Like live Instagram it or
You should do it. Yeah, let's do it. And maybe we'll do another podcast on it too.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So talk to us about any celebrities that you loved interviewing, on Orange Juice and Biscuits or just on the podcast that you have coming up.
So I recently had Chelsea Hirsch, who was the senior editor at Page Six.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I had Drew Jogi on the show, who just got a glowing review from the New York Times, who's doing a play called Happy Birthday, Drew at the Soho Playhouse that I'm seeing soon. Yeah, and they extended it. RuPaul tweeted about it.
Wow.
He's a writer, and he did his first like TV for Netflix writing on AJ and the Queen for RuPaul's Netflix show.
Wow.
So that was great. I'm working on a few upcoming guests that are coming up. But
any dream guest, any dream celeb that you would love to have on the podcast?
I mean, pop stars. Like, I would love to have, like, I don't know, like a Jessica Simpson or something.
Yes, put that in the universe.
Yeah, something like that. Because in my time of doing this, I've interviewed a ton of celebrities. Like, if you go on orangejuiceandbiscuits.com and Google type in Mandy Moore, I interviewed Mandy Moore. She was doing like a Purina tour for like Cats or something before This Is Us. And so there's an interview with me and Mandy Moore. There's, an interview where I was doing it in Texas as a radio show, and I went to South by Southwest, and I did the red carpet for I Love You Man and Paul Rudd, Jamie Priestley, Rashida Jones.
Wow.
I've interviewed Zooey Deschanel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt for 500 Days of Summer.
Love that movie.
Yeah, I've interviewed, when it was a radio show again, I interviewed In Vogue on the radio.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've interviewed a lot of amazing celebrities, so I really want to get back into that realm.
Totally.
And really just doing like those one-on-ones. They're just so fun. It's just like letting people know, like, hey, I'm doing that again, and like, trust me. But it's also
it's hard. It's tough.
And the PR people aren't what they used to be.
They're
to
not.
Be honest,
and it's like hard to get in. Speaking of PR, so you've done done publicity, how have you been able to transition from publicity to being on air? Because that's not so easy either, right?
I mean, I had a background in public relations because that's something that I did when, I started in 2010. I moved here. And so, to me, it was always easy to make money as a publicist because for me, I'm a people person.
Right.
And I think that in PR specifically, talking about that field, it's like a lot of people joined it because they wanted to be Samantha Jones or something.
Yeah.
So it's not that. You have to actually be good at talking to people. And I think that a lot of people got into it for the wrong reasons, and they're not people persons.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what makes it hard for people, because if you're not relating to the public and you can't relate to the public, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's for me, what I'm doing now and doing the podcast, that this is what's natural to me, and this is what I've always wanted to do. And that side was I'm glad that I've experienced that, because it teaches you how to promote yourself and how people are. But I think the most frustrating thing is dealing with people who are publicists, not really knowing that I do have a PR background, and how they treat. I was like, I would never treat a journalist like this,
that, or a talent,
or even like a micro influencer, whatever, like however they justify it. I'm like, what is happening? Like, just last night, I had a confirmed interview with someone who was on TV, who I won't do that to them, but then I didn't hear from them. They reached out to me in December. It was a PR agency that literally gave me so many emails every day about talent interviews. So finally I was like, oh, hey, like, let me support them. Like, they're hustling. Yeah. So then, long story short, I follow up after not hearing from them since December. And they're like, oh, so sorry, we decided to respectfully pass, or politely pass. And I was like, no, like, you confirmed this, and you dropped, they dropped the ball. So anyway, I was just like, please take me off your list. And then they were like, we will do that at your request. And I said, so understand that this is sloppy, and this is like unprofessional, and I will be talking about it on all my podcasts and
that is so unprofessional. Because where does that come from? That happens all the time when you're booking guests and everything. Like, where first they're all for it, and then they're not for it. What is it about? What is it about? A popularity thing? Is it a?
No. And at the same time, when I'm saying, like, I want to be respectful and spread positivity, I'm also, at the same time,
you're not going to take shit.
I'm over the BS, and I'm over people trying to treat me like I haven't been doing this since 2010 and beyond, because then, they try to make up all these excuses, and then you see people who are at the party and they're like full of crashers and like people's roommates and boyfriends.
And you're like, I've worked so hard, and I'm also giving you value.
Right. And
so what's the problem?
Exactly. So that's the frustrating part. But yeah, it's also like this past summer, I was invited to an event out in the Hamptons. They reached out to me, and then I was like, sure, I'll accept this trip. And they're like, oh, so sorry. Like, actually, I'm like, that's not the thing that annoys me. It's like, don't be lazy as someone who's done public relations. Research me. Don't just like Google entertainment or whatever, bloggers or influencers, whatever they're calling us these days, and then just throw me on a list without doing your research. Because anytime I work with a client, anytime I send out an email,
you do your due diligence.
It's custom. The list is researched, and I'm not sending out to someone who I would be mortified if they were like, I would love to accept, and I was like, oh, actually. So that's.
But at least you have background of the publicity, because we all, like me, I have producing background, publicity background, which has helped me with my on-air stuff, because nobody else was going to teach me how to be on air.
Exactly.
So I feel like all this experience makes you who you're meant to be.
And what I've learned is every experience that you have in life will come full circle. It's like a tool belt, and you literally, when you walk into something, like, I can pull out my PR tools or my on-air tools or like my personality tools. And also, it's like you learn how to not treat people and how to treat people.
Totally.
But also I'm at that stage where, like, I will write back that email and be like, this is extremely unprofessional.
Or unacceptable.
And they'll ignore it, but they won't respond.
Like, there's a way to like defend yourself.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I just want people to know, like, please know I understand that you're treating me like crap,
Right.
And it's like, I think it's like, what did they say? Be humble, but let these bitches know. Like,
love that. Be humble, but let these bitches know, by Jonathan Valdez.
Yes.
So let's talk about Chanel in the City, your favorite restaurant or place when you go to the city. Your mom's in town, so like, where are you guys going? Where are you guys hitting up? Where should we hit up?
Yeah, so there was this really cute place. I live in Harlem, so there's this place called it's called Cafe Latte, around like 119, 116. Love that, but my favorite place, honestly, is Pastis. Have you been to
love Pastis? Yes.
So being here in New York for a while, that there was the original Pastis where Restoration Hardware is. I actually talked about it on the show today, because well, I'll get to that in 2 seconds. So where Restoration Hardware was the fabulous Pastis, and then it closed down, and I was so sad because I never went to that location, but then they opened up the new one, and I went, and it's just so fabulous. The service is great.
Fabulous.
The people are great. Go. They treat you really well. But I loved Barbudo. Remember Barbudo?
Yes.
They closed down. I just read a few days ago that I believe it was in the Times, they're opening it up again, and they're doing exactly what Pastis did. It'll be like a few streets over.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Exactly. So
I love that.
Yeah, and I feel like Pastis is like French, and then Barbudo is more like Italianish like food, but they have that fabulous kale salad.
Totally.
So I love the meatpacking district. I love places that you go and they treat you well.
Right. The ambiance is important. The service is important. Because who wants to be rushed out? Like that's the the negativity is what gets to me.
And what was it in this past decade where you would go to restaurants and they were bitchy to you? Like that was like a thing.
Oh, that was like the 70s, like the Kate Moss era.
Right, exactly.
Where like it was cool to be skinny and not eat and smoke a cigarette in your face and be like, you know what, you can't stay here more than 10 minutes because we don't eat. And it's like, bitch, what? Like I have to eat my French fries and grilled cheese.
Some of these like people, like I don't know, like for a while there, I felt like it was like a thing where service was like rude and snobby. And, and I don't do that. Like I can't. I want to be a place where I feel welcome because at the end of the day, you're spending money.
Yeah, and part of being in the city is just enjoying the culture. Like I was on the way here today, and I was like, New York City is so beautiful. It really is.
So beautiful.
And it's the way you enjoy yourself. You got to go to the right restaurants. You got to go to the right spas. You got to go to the right, even just being Central Park and having a day there and pampering yourself is beautiful.
Do you ever just walk through Central Park and feel like you're taken out of the city because
of
all the greenery, and it's so
pretty.
I love it. We should do a walk.
We should do a walk. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And that's also a great date. People ask me all the time, what's a great date night? Take her to like Central Park and do like a picnic there. That's cute.
Listen, you can start like in like a little bit uptown and like maybe where like the Met Museum is, then walk into Central Park and walk out, and then you come out at Columbus Circle. You can go to Bouchon Bakery.
Yeah, you can even ride the horse and buggy.
Exactly.
Like it's cute.
You know, grab a muffin and grab some gelato from the Time Warner Center.
I love that.
Yeah, and just like you know, have a romantic time and you really utilize the city. That's what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
You forget, but there's so many like magical moments. You can find your Cheers where everyone knows your name. You can find those places where people treat you well.
So true.
And you just have to find those good people.
Totally.
In the city.
Speaking about dating, what's your advice to us who are single in the city and cannot find, you know, that right one, or just like what's advice to like go on good dating apps, or just like do you believe in dating apps? I hate them, but
I'm on all the dating apps.
I'm on them too, but
all of them. And I don't know. I think just like keep trucking, don't settle. I started dating more last year and this year, and really just like not putting up with people's like BS and being like, you know, I always say if you can't handle me at my 2007, you don't deserve me at my Vegas residency.
I love these catchphrases.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have like on orangejuiceandbiscuits.com just like catchphrases by you.
I know. I need to start doing merch. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's that.
Yeah, I need to do merch.
Finding people, finding people who put up with like your quirks and your weirdness and like understand you. And for me, if I can go into this real quick, I have met people who, I can only imagine for people who have like millions of followers, I found people who have like looked me up or whatever, and they're very weird and jealous about it. And I think that's something to look out for in our industry, especially us. Making sure that I want an A-Rod like to my J-Lo.
Right, because a lot of them are jealous. Like I've come across a lot of guys I've dated, and I feel like they're so quick to push me away. And I like when I was on the radio on Be a Lie, and I thought it was a cool thing to say, or my podcast on iHeart, but you realize they get jealous and they start going for other people who are just less than. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to go for someone who's just as driven, or don't you want to be driven, but there's something weird, and you're right. You should look out. That's a great tip. Yeah. Look out for someone who's going to support you completely.
Right, exactly. And just be like someone accused me of like, oh my gosh, you're so addicted to social media, but they were basing me on like when you look at my page. But when I go on dates or I go to a restaurant, I put my phone away. It's actually a time for me to like relax and just be like present,
right?
You know, as much as I'm addicted, because when I'm alone, I'm always like on my phone. But like, you know, so that was really weird for me. And then, yeah, and I'm sure you experience this as a woman, like guys just being intimidated because you're independent and doing your own thing and out there. I had a friend who, you know, guys would always be weary of her because she like has her own business. She's in PR. She had a radio show. She would do on camera things. And like, you just, I mean, that's why I really love like, you know, J-Lo and A-Rod's like relationship, because he seems so happy for her.
Yeah.
You know,
and he seems like he wants to join in the success. Like
right.
there was a moment at the Super Bowl, like he was just going.
Yes.
Did you see that when he went crazy with his kids? And that's so nice to see, because he's so comfortable and not insecure because where he's at.
Right.
So you do need like a J-Lo to your A-Rod and an A-Rod to your J-Lo if you're going to be in this industry. Because I've been hurt. I don't know about you. I've been hurt a lot. And it's a lot. It's very painful when somebody makes you feel so bad about yourself when all you want to do is dream. You know what I mean?
And then also, and I'm sure you know, because like going out to events, doing stuff like this, it's
struggle.
Yeah, and also it takes a lot of your energy. And at the end of the day, you want to go and meet up with someone who's very chill. Well, for me, like is very chill, like talks about like whatever they like to talk about, and kind of just like be like normal, I guess,
and
like,
not
chill.
judgy. Yeah,
and
just
not judgy,
chill.
Yeah, we're around a lot of personalities. We're around a lot of like
competition,
kikiing, like this, that, and the other, and you're always on. So you want someone that you can be comfortable with.
Totally.
You know, because honestly, like when I date someone, I don't talk really about what I do. Like
me too.
I don't bring it up that much because I don't want them to be like, that's what they're interested in. And some people can be very much like, you know, and honestly, I'm very private as much as I do my social media. I don't talk about like my personal life that much. And honestly, I feel like if I do start dating someone seriously, I don't think that I would put them on my social media. What do you think?
I don't think so either. Actually, when I was dating my ex, who I was on and off with 4.5 years with, by the way, he's a very quiet person as is. He didn't like the whole social media thing. Long story short, to find out, obviously he wasn't so faithful to me the whole time. But besides that, I think, yeah, I'm not like that either though. As much as I'm an extrovert, I'm also very introverted about my personal life and my intimate life and like my boyfriends. I don't know what it's always been like that for me.
Yeah.
Where like I'll be so open about everything and like you'll know who I am, but like when it comes to dating, like you'll not know.
But I think it's because you are so open and I'm so open, and you want those one little thing that's just yours. And
yeah.
You're not sharing that with other people.
Totally.
And I think that's okay, because if you think about it, a lot of these people who don't have the outlets that we have, that's why Facebook is like, you know, the everyday person's like OK Magazine or Us Weekly. It's their tabloid. You go on there and you see people from home and it's like, whoa, like
exactly.
All the drama, all the updates, all the, you know, this, that, and the other. Where for us, it's so opposite, because we're out there, we're talking about stuff, we're on camera, we're on air, and we want someone that we can just like kind of like, you know, go and snuggle with and not have to be on.
I love that. That's such good advice.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, what does it take to be successful in this industry?
Perseverance and really just like drive and meeting good people and like collaborating and you know, like we're doing, you know.
That's what I love about you.
For having me here, because
oh my God, thank you so much. You know, Jonathan wrote a story about me too on his website, and that helped.
Really well, by the way.
Did really well,
and still doing really well.
And I love that you like to collaborate, because I'm very big on collaboration. I'm never about like I'm always the star and there's no room for anyone to like shine. Like, and I think it's important that you show that as a leader, and it's a very important example.
Yeah, there's room for everyone. But honestly, like, you know, I'm so excited because I've been doing this since, you know, for a while. 10 years plus, but I got to a point where like in 2013, I was in a place where people wanted to interview me and things like that. And then, you know, for whatever reason, I kind of just stopped, and I kind of like told myself like, okay, well, like it wasn't good enough or whatever. And I kind of just stopped. And then for a few years, like I would do things here and there, but not like last year and this year. And I feel like the reason I'm saying this story is like I didn't give up and I kept going, but I really started refocusing, and I'm so proud to say that I feel like I really am where I left off when I really felt it.
And where you want to be.
And where I want to be, you know, and now it's so great to do interviews and be on people's podcasts and do things like your show and you
not
know,
giving up. That's so important not to give, because I always feel like giving up. Like we were talking about, you know, I'm not on Yes, I have a podcast on iHeartRadio, but I had to work really hard to get there.
That's amazing.
And also I'm not on like, it's not like I'm a reporter on Entertainment Tonight, which I wanted to be, or E! News, which it's all our dream.
Yeah.
So it's hard because you want to give up. And I feel like you're a great story, an example, inspiration of not giving up.
Thank you.
Because you did get to where you got to. Really, you achieved where most people who dream want to be.
Oh, thank you.
And there is more ahead for you.
Yeah,
and of course,
yeah.
no limitations. I'm so not about limitations.
No, me either.
Like dream, sky's the limit.
But I honestly think, and if I may say, like, I think that this is your niche right here.
Really?
Just like sitting on a couch and talking to people.
Like,
I feel like you're really good at interviewing. No, 100%.
I really, because I love it. Yeah.
And
you're really good too, by the way. You're very good at articulating. You should do long form podcasts. So I feel like there's people that are talented enough to do long form, and then there's people that really can just do short. But you're so good at articulating everything and like really storytelling.
Thank you. And I love, and I feel like you're like me because you want to know people's story.
Totally.
So I honestly feel like you sitting down with people and interviewing with a camera, like this is me. This is you. Yes.
I love that you approve. Thank you.
No, for real. Like,
because I didn't know, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, and you feel like, okay, I'm doing something, I'm onto something. But really, it's because you're right. I really genuinely love interviewing you guys, and I want to know more about you. And I look up to you, and I'm like, wow, that person is someone I want to be more like. How can I be more like them?
Exactly. And you've invested and interested. Like, I feel so like willing to talk about anything because I feel like comfortable, and I think that you bring that out, and you're great on camera.
Thank you. So are you. And we're gonna do Jonathan's show hopefully soon.
Yes.
We'll let you know. Stay tuned.
On soon.
Mental health. So I'm big on mental health. Have you ever had an episode in your life that you had to cope with something with mental health? If so, how did you get over it? And any tips for anyone who's going through it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah. I mean, I actually, like exclusive because I don't talk about this very often. Like, I have dealt with anxiety before, and I think that a lot of people have or a lot of celebrities have talked about dealing with that. And I think it's something that people don't realize. And so I have had issues with anxiety. It had gone away for a really long time, but it really came back in the past few years. And I really had to like deal with that because it came back in like a big way.
Yeah.
So I think that really opening up and not being ashamed to talk about it is important, especially because people don't realize that. And I like literally never talk about anything. Like no one, like you're the first person I've ever told on this platform.
Wow, I feel so special. Yeah, because me too. I feel like it's always taboo. And like you're always, especially as a journalist, I don't know if you ever feel this way, but as a journalist or an interviewer, it's almost like the mother or the father. You feel like you have to be strong for the kid, or you have to be strong for the interview, and like your feelings are never allowed to be expressed. That's why it was always so hard for me, because I was more of a personality than an interviewer or a journalist. You know what I'm saying? Like I would call myself a journalist for the skill, but really I was so much more than that, like the bigger personality. And I think sometimes it could screw with that your mental psyche if it's not there.
And it was just like for various reasons, but I think that the tip is just like find your own coping mechanisms that work for you.
That's such great advice.
Yeah, and you have to like kind of like take time out and like breathe and stuff. Like the Calm app is really amazing.
Oh my God, I love that app.
Calm app, yeah. But I think that it's important to talk about mental health and to advocate for it, and that we as a society need to know that, like, especially in like, I feel like in our generation, there's a lot of people that I think have like anxiety, depression.
Oh yeah.
And and I don't know if that comes from like, and even the younger generation, like with social media and things like that. I think that, even if you scroll through Instagram, there's so many accounts talking about it.
Totally.
And things like that. So I think that just like having like a good support system, knowing how to support yourself and your own coping mechanisms to be able to deal with that, because you never know what people are going through, You
really never know what people are going through. So always be kind, I remember, like, this is also an exclusive that I'm divulging to you, really only more than anybody else. When I had Princesses of Long Island, that reality show for one season, it's tough when something goes well and then it gets taken away from you, and then you have these expectations or these dreams, right? I had these big girl dreams, and you think you're going to make it, and then you don't. But then you see other shows replacing you. That's where my mental health, I always felt normal before that. Like I always was like, I'm a normal kid, or I was different. I was definitely different, and I was definitely bullied, and I definitely had my fair share of like popularity going up and down. That's how I became so secure now to be like, fuck it, I'm who I am, excuse my language, but I am who I am. like it or take it or leave it. But when that show really, it made me hit rock bottom, and it made me realize like, wow, I have a lot to work on. And that's where I had to cope. Like you said, I downloaded the Calm app. I had to do things that I coped with. So if it meant like drinking a scotch every week, which is not what I recommend, or smoking a joint, but there are things that sometimes this industry, like you don't know what to expect. There are no guarantees. And I think that's the unknown is what's scary.
I think a big thing too is weeding out negative people.
Yes.
And like bad energy.
Yes.
And just people who aren't with you for the right reasons.
Totally.
Like you have to, because I've done that, and I've continued to do that, and really just working on myself in like a spiritual level and like energy wise, and it's completely transformed things for me. And I think it's important. Thank you, because if you have bad energy around you, that's going to trigger anxiety, that's going to trigger those bad feelings, that's going to trigger things in you that don't need to be there. And I think that it's really just cleaning out your circle and your energy. I'm a big fan of saging. Like,
you are, me too. I love saging when I can.
Yeah, just like sage and just like get that good energy, meditating, like,
like putting out, that's what I love about you. Like you'll put it out there and you'll get it done.
Yeah.
Like you're not worried about what people think about you. Like you said, you bring good energy, and you're a living, walking example. And I think that if you can see it and feel it, you should be around people like that. That's what I'm priding myself on now. Really, the truth is, it's always the mean girls and the popular girls that are always the negative energy. So I had to weed that out.
Yeah.
Like some of my peers even, but like, and it's a lonely world, but it's worth it, because then you get to where you want to get to successfully.
Yeah, exactly. And people will see that and they'll want to be a part of that. And then like even on my Instagram highlights, that's why I have like a motivation highlight.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's just all of these things that I find, like Ty, what is it? Ty Hunter, I believe. Like he used to be Beyonce stylist.
Yes.
He is like, I posted a lot of his stuff last year.
Me too. He's great.
Yeah, he's great. And he always does like the yellow with like the caution sign, and it's so good. And just like putting those things and certain things that I post that are motivational, I'm so surprised and taken aback, because I'll get like flooded with messages. I really needed to see this today and things like that. So I think that that's also helped me mentally, is like, I use my stories as a journal. So I think that if it's a real journal or your stories or your Facebook, or find a platform that you can kind of just put thoughts out there and that you can kind of like reflect on, because I think that's important too.
What do you say before we wrap up? What do you say to the naysayers out there when people are saying like, this has happened to me before? I don't know if it's happened to you, but like, we're in high school or whenever you were bullied, like, oh, you're not going to be somebody, or you're not going to ever achieve those on-camera dreams, or you're crazy for thinking that way, or stop, get a 9-to-5 job. What's your advice to those?
I say, honestly, the first thing I was going to say is like ignore it. But I think now, talking about mental health and spirituality and just being, or whatever that means to you, process it first, see it, process it, and throw it out. Because I think that we really do ourselves a disservice by just being like, no, I'm fabulous. Like, I'm not, like, process it, but like, don't let it affect you. But I think it's important to like see it, because when you're processing it, don't let it affect you, but learn what that person is. Like Maya Angelou and Oprah says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And then process it, meaning, again, to my story before, what are my next steps? What do I do with that information? And just like, no, okay, well, maybe that person gets to slowly fade out, or maybe this, And I think that know your worth, believe in your value, and know what you bring to the table, because there's millions of people in this world, and like, to quote Lady Gaga in her Oscar run, it only takes one person in the room to notice you. But it's so true,
And also like learn to walk away. Like I feel like there's a lot of people sometimes in life that say, they'll like lure you in and be like, you're so good at this, but really they're bringing you in to make them bigger. What do you say to people who want to leave like their corporate job, but they want to achieve dreams like what we're doing, like being on air or writing an article? Like, how do you get out of it if your employer's trying to keep you in?
You have to be true to yourself and know that I think a lot of people are, I don't want to say brainwashed, but are conditioned in this society that one job is making it or being successful. And I think that for those people who find themselves, which I've done in the past, because I've worked at corporate places, and you're there and you just feel like part of the machine, or you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore, and you feel stifled. And for some people, that's a great place to be because they want to be there, and they went to school and college to get a corporate job, and they want to be the VP and successful. But I say for those who don't, you just got to do it. You got to take the leap and like find other ways of making money on the side, and just, and then push out your product and let people know that that's what you do. And I think that people feel that they have to, that how they make money is like who they are, but that's not true because, I've always said that my podcast and my blog and like doing these kind of interviews, like this is my full-time job.
Right.
And anything else I do besides that behind the scenes would be just like making coins,
It's like you need to be your biggest supporter. Right. You're right. It's not, don't have shame. And like, I need to also, I was speaking to another podcast host and she was like, don't feel shame when you're dating someone or when you're out there saying, I do Chanel in the City full time. Yes, that's whether people are looking at me like I'm a joke or like, what do you mean? And what is it about? It's like, it's my podcast that I do full time, which I am pretty busy with, which you're pretty busy with your podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you're recording once a week, it takes a long time.
Exactly.
So
there's a lot of, and then like mentally and like, that's all you think
mentally.
About. It's like, and what's that thing? It's like the thing that you go to sleep and wake up thinking about, like, that's what you're meant to do.
Totally.
And then I also believe, because I always say Oprah's my mentor, but she says, when you feed your calling, the universe will provide for you. So I
love that.
Yeah, and you really
That's
have
so
to believe
powerful.
that because if you're in a corporate job and you want to do something else, you're feeding that corporate job, but it's not feeding you. And when you start feeding your calling, you'll see like doors opening up, paths opening up,
totally.
And things like that. And I felt like for a while I was going down like a wrong direction as far as like trying to get like certain jobs and they weren't happening. But then when I started focusing on really things like this and my like doors were opening up.
Yeah.
And that's the universe. How many times can the universe tell you something? So when you feed your calling, the universe will provide.
I love that. Well, let's end on that good note because I could talk to you for hours, but you guys can stay tuned to our conversation. And I'm going to be on Jonathan's show. Please check out Jonathan Valdez. Where can they follow you one more time?
Yes, so it's orangejuiceandbiscuits.com. Instagram is Jonathan R. Valdez, and Twitter is Jonathan Valdez.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Love you, boo.
Yay.